When will you just let go and follow Jesus? When will you just let go of all of your selfish ambitions, your dreams, the distractions, and just say, Jesus, consume me. Take me over, I'm yours, I'm 100% yours. You see, Jesus, 2,000 years ago, he walked this earth and he came up to a few men, just these 12 men, and he came up to them while they were working, while they were with their families, while they were busy doing things, and he said, leave everything behind and come follow me. They could have easily said, well, Jesus, you know, I have this business that I run. Jesus, I have this career that I'm in. Jesus, I have my family that I'm a part of. I have this town that I'm very, involved in and I want to be a part of. They could have easily said that, but they just didn't say a word. They just dropped everything. They recognized that the Lord was calling them and they went. And when I was 12 years old, I'm a pastor's son, born and raised in church, but living the lukewarm Christian life. And when I was 12 years old, I felt the call of God on my life. Gave up all the sinful habits I had, all the distractions I had as a kid with video games and skateboarding and sports and chasing after girls in junior high and being in that immature state. And I just said, God, you're real. You're really real. So I'm going to give everything I got for you. When I was 12 years old, I decided the most radical thing I could possibly do was go on a 40-day fast. So that's what I did. I went on a 40-day fast where I just had bread, fruits, and liquids for 40 days, and I just sought the face of God as a 12-year-old kid. For the first time, started hearing the voice of God. For the first time, started actually understanding the Bible as I read it. For the first time, I actually felt like Jesus was my best friend, and I fell in love with him. And for a year, I just would spend 3-4 hours a day, almost every single day, in his presence. And when I was 13 years old, God called me to preach the gospel in the streets. It's a long story, but I had this encounter with God where for 6 hours I was laying on the floor weeping for souls. And I could physically not get up. It was impossible for me to get up. I felt the weight of the compassion of God for the lost. And I was just weeping for souls. And that night, my dad comes home from work and my mom says, Paul, look at your son. He's just been weeping and crying that the world's going to hell. Why don't you go take him out to preach the gospel or something? And so my dad's like, okay, sure, let's have dinner first. So we have dinner and then we start driving. We lived in California at the time, and we found about a strip of Mexican bars, and he's like, oh, this is perfect. So we park and start going witnessing there, and we witnessed till about 12, 1 in the morning that night. And that was a Friday night, and from that point on, every Friday night, my dad and I would go out to those same Mexican bars that whole summer. And ended up taking our youth group there, seeing many people get saved. And that just launched me into a lifestyle of evangelism, where in high school, I was always in public school, just preaching the gospel every single day. And when I was 14 and 15 years old, I started reading about the underground church in China. They have this thing, this culture called itinerant preachers. It's just this basic part of Christianity there, where they're not pastors who stay with one congregation, and they're not these evangelists that big outreaches or do a Friday night thing and go back home. They're kind of just like the disciples, that they just leave everything. They get saved, they leave everything. They leave their farm, they leave their family, they leave their work, whatever they have. And they just start walking from village to village, city to city, preaching the gospel. That's all they do. And they just go for like a year. And they come back and work a couple years. And then they go back again, 6 months, and they come back. And that's what they do. And women do it too, and girls do it too. It's crazy. I met Jackie Pollinger. She's a missionary to Hong Kong, and she said that she personally knew a 16-year-old girl from Hong Kong who went on her bicycle into mainland China for a year preaching the gospel, living completely by faith with no money. And by the end of that year, when she came back to Hong Kong, she said she had planted 6 house churches. And I said, God, I am not going to let a 16-year-old girl whoop my butt. That is not right. And just their example provoked me. And so I said, God, I don't know how and I don't know when, but one day I'm going to raise up for you an army of itinerant preachers here in America and in the Western world. That just stayed locked in my heart. And then when I was 19, I finished community college, actually right here at Miami-Dade. And I was about to go into Bible school and get my degree in theology to be a pastor. And my parents didn't feel peace. They said, Joshua, we've been praying. We feel like you're supposed to do 6 months to a year of practical ministry first. And we're like, okay. And so I just prayed, sought the Lord, did a fast. And I was like, God, what do you want me to do? And God spoke to me clearly. He said, Joshua, so you want to raise up an army of itinerant preachers. How do you think you're going to do that? Do you think you're just going to get a degree in theology and people are just going to follow you? He said, no, you must go first. You must set the example. And he said, go for 6 months and preach the gospel across America. Take no money with you, only trust in me. I said, all right, God, no problem. So I spoke with my parents, spoke with my pastors. They all blessed me to do it. Went into a 40-day fast where I stayed isolated in an apartment with no human contact, just sought the face of God. Because I was also provoked by Moses. I was like, Moses got to do it, I'm going to do it. And so I did that. And then I went. And 2 days before I left, God provided me a partner to go with. His name's Alex Diaz. He's Cuban from Hialeah. And me and Alex, we went from Miami to San Francisco for 6 months, preaching the gospel in the streets every single day. Our only agenda was wake up, pray for 3 or 4 hours in the morning, and then hit the streets anywhere from 4 to 10 hours a day, preaching the gospel. Took no money, no car, no credit cards, just a backpack and a Bible, and just trusting in God. We would show up in a city with no connections, nothing, and somehow by the end of that night we'd have a place to stay. Every city is a different story. We had 3 meals a day every single day. We only stayed 4 nights on the street out of 6 months. We never asked for anything. We never raised support. We never asked for money. We never took up offerings, nothing. And God always provided. Glory to God. And now we began a ministry called Global Gospel Movement, where we're raising up itinerant preachers to preach the gospel across America. We take them through a 5-week boot camp training where we teach them every style of evangelism and how to witness to people of all different religions. And then we send them out 2 by 2, and they go for 6 months across America, take no money with them, just trust in God and preach. So now we've sent out about 13 guys. We just started a couple years ago. And I just challenge you to preach the gospel right here where you're at. And to be a part of what God is doing. The way our ministry works is we train them, we send them out, but then we have networks. We have a network of host homes throughout the country that host the itinerant preachers whenever they're in their city. We have a network of churches that help disciple the souls that get saved whenever they come to Christ in that city. We have a network of intercessors who cover them in prayer constantly because they're in the front line to the battle. Then we have a network of media people who help document it, put it up on YouTube, and just spread the vision. And then we have a network of investors and a network of recruiters. And there's a lot of people who can't do it. You know, they're like, I got to work, I got school, can't go. But they could help us recruit more people. And so those are the networks we